Horrific, allegedly true paranormal stories. Story number 1. Haunted daycare. When I was 21, I took on a job handling maintenance and custodial duties at a daycare center. My daily routine revolved around mundane tasks like trash removal and ensuring the facility was tidy and safe for the children. It was a job that demanded a lot, especially since I often found myself working alone or with just one other person, who I'll refer to as Bob. One evening, as I stayed late to prepare the daycare for the upcoming holiday season, something peculiar happened. The sun had already set, casting a veil of darkness outside, and I was the lone soul within the building. As I lugged Christmas decorations up from the basement, faint whispers and laughter drifted into my ears. At first, I brushed it off as my mind playing tricks on me, or perhaps the sounds from outside finding their way in. But as I continued my tasks, the noises persisted, growing clearer and more defined. Driven by both curiosity and a creeping sense of unease, I decided to investigate. I combed through each room of the daycare meticulously, scouring every corner, yet found no trace of any children. The voices seemed to be emanating from the basement, but one area I hadn't thoroughly searched. With a heavy heart and a growing sense of dread, I descended the stairs into the dimly lit depths. The atmosphere in the basement was suffocatingly eerie. The low light and cluttered storage space only served to amplify my apprehension. As I entered the storage room, I was greeted by a chilling sight. A toy car rolling across the floor, seemingly propelled by an invisible hand. Panic seized me as I frantically scanned the room for any sign of life or presence. The silence that followed was thick and oppressive, broken only by the frantic beating of my own heart. And then, as if to punctuate the moment, I heard the unmistakable sound of something plastic hitting the floor behind me, despite there being no logical explanation for its movement. In a state of sheer terror, I bolted from the basement, my mind reeling with fear and confusion. Unable to shake the feeling of being watched or the eerie whispers that seemed to linger in the air, I reached out to Bob for guidance. Despite his advice to involve the authorities, I couldn't shake the sense of dread that clung to me long after the incident. Haunted by the inexplicable events of that night, I ultimately made the difficult decision to resign from my position at the daycare. The experience left me deeply disturbed, questioning the thin line between reality and the unknown, and wondering if some mysteries are better left unsolved. Story number 2. Hallucination. At 27, I shared a house with my brother James, and up until then, my life had been devoid of any truly strange or abnormal occurrences. But there was one particular week that stands out in my memory, a week filled with inexplicable events that left me questioning the boundaries of the ordinary. It all began on what seemed like an ordinary night. I was in the kitchen, going about my usual routine of washing dishes, before turning in for the night. Suddenly, a plastic cup came crashing to the floor, its loud clatter jolting me from my thoughts. I turned to see the blue plastic cup lying on the ground, bewildered as to how it had fallen. It had been sitting securely atop the cabinet, and there was no logical explanation for its sudden descent. I replaced it on the cabinet, shaking off the odd occurrence, but little did I know, it was only the beginning. Later that night, as I lay in bed with the blinds drawn shut, a strange glow permeated my room, seeping in through the slats of the blinds. Curiosity piqued. I tried to catch a glimpse of the source, but couldn't discern anything definitive. Chalking it up to a mundane explanation like a streetlight with a new bulb, I dismissed it and drifted off to sleep, oblivious to the strangeness that would follow. The next day, while James was at work and the house echoed with the rumble of thunder from an ongoing storm, another cup fell in the kitchen. This time, it was the same blue plastic cup I had carefully replaced on the cabinet the day before. I couldn't blame it on the thunder this time. There was something undeniably eerie about it. Confusion and unease settled over me as I scanned the kitchen, searching for answers. Then came the sound of creaking floorboards from the room above, my own bedroom. Despite knowing James wasn't home, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that washed over me. Climbing the stairs, I called out his name, only to remember his absence. Yet, I felt compelled to check my room, if only to ease my troubled mind. Finding nothing amiss, I returned downstairs, haunted by the inexplicable events unfolding around me. That night, I finally broached the subject with James, recounting the bizarre occurrences that had taken place in our home. He seemed unaware of any of it, which only added to my growing sense of unease. Despite our discussion, the remainder of the night passed without incident, and I drifted off to sleep with a semblance of normalcy. But as the clock struck an ungodly hour in the darkness of the night, I was jolted awake by the distinct sound of tapping on my window. Panic surged through me as I struggled to comprehend who could be knocking at my second-floor window. Rationally, I knew it was impossible. Yet the tapping persisted, my heart pounding in my chest. Fearing the worst, I mustered the courage to investigate, only to find nothing but empty darkness, both inside and outside. Story number 3. The Supernatural. I once embarked on a road trip from New Hampshire to Florida, a journey that took me through long stretches of highway and unfamiliar territory. Halfway to my destination, I found myself in need of rest and decided to spend the night at a hotel off the beaten path, nestled on a quiet road. The establishment appeared somewhat dilapidated, with only a couple of cars parked in the lot, indicating a lack of guests. The atmosphere inside mirrored the exterior, with tacky furniture adorning the lobby and dated wallpaper lining the walls. The receptionist, with her robotic demeanor, seemed to blend seamlessly into the uninspiring ambience of the hotel. Despite its lackluster appearance, I was simply seeking a place to rest my head for the night, not luxury. Late into the night, as I lay in bed, the tranquility was shattered by a sudden knock at my door. Glancing at the bedside clock, I noted the lateness of the hour and approached the door cautiously. Peering through the peephole yielded only darkness, and I detected no presence on the other side. Convinced it might be a prank, I opened the door to find an empty hallway. This unsettling pattern repeated itself, with each knock sending shivers down my spine. Despite my attempts to rationalize the situation, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease creeping over me. Seeking answers, I approached the front desk, only to be met with indifference from the receptionist, who revealed there was only one other guest in the entire hotel. Frustrated by her lack of concern, I returned to my room, locking the door with the bolt for added security. Hoping to drown out any further disturbances, I turned to relaxation videos on YouTube, seeking solace in their soothing tones. However, my peace was short-lived when I noticed a looming figure in the corner of the room, a towering humanoid shape that filled me with dread. Terrified by the sight, I hastily illuminated the room, only to find it empty once more. Despite my efforts to calm myself, the apparition persisted, haunting me with its presence. Unable to endure another moment in that room, I swiftly gathered my belongings and left, seeking refuge elsewhere. Story number 4. Supernatural disturbances. As a child, my family faced financial constraints, and with 4 kids to care for, my room was a small, cramped space on the first floor next to the living room. Wood flooring, 2 large vents in the floor and ceiling, and a bed that occupied half the room were the defining features of my space. One evening, when I was 13, while diligently working on homework atop my bed, I distinctly heard the laughter of a child. Intrigued, I ventured into the living room and kitchen, searching for any of my siblings who might have been responsible for the sound. But everyone seemed to be upstairs, leaving me perplexed. Unlike some who might dismiss such experiences as figments of imagination, I was certain of what I heard. It was too clear to be anything else. Resuming my homework, I kept an ear attuned for further oddities. Just as I began to convince myself it was a fleeting anomaly, the laughter resurfaced, this time seemingly emanating from within my own room. Following the sound, I found myself drawn to the corner where one of the floor vents lay. Peering into it, I was met with silence, only to be startled by a pair of eyes staring back at me from within the vent. The shock sent me screaming for my mom, who rushed into my room, but by then, the laughter and the eyes had vanished, leaving her to dismiss my experience as a product of sleep deprivation. Refusing to spend another night in that room, I sought refuge in my mom's room, but her tolerance lasted only a week. Before insisting I returned to my own bed. For the next 4 years, I dwelled in that room without encountering any further paranormal phenomena. It remained a singular and inexplicable occurrence, a strange footnote in my childhood memories that thankfully never repeated itself. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.